Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started here, I think, while we get our my tag team partner here, Janine Walker, while she gets settled. We're going to get started on my portion of the conversation while she gets her audio taken care of. So thank you very much for joining us. My name is Kevin Meyer. I'm with Over the Edge, and Janine Walker is going to be joining us here in a second audio-wise. She's with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Columbia Northwest up there in Portland, Oregon. She's the events and fundraising manager there currently. And so what we're going to really be getting into is we're going to start off with just a few minutes of really me just sharing a little bit about Over the Edge and how it all works, our history and such. And then we're going to let really the star of the show, we're going to let Janine share what they've done with the event for 2 years now to bring in a significant amount of revenue. So let's go ahead and get, then we'll have, of course, a Q&A session. Right now, everyone's muted, and at some point down the road here, we may go ahead and open up the conversation. But during the, as we're going through this process, there's a way in which you can ask questions, and my teammate Sydney is going to be calling them out to us as we go along. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get rolling here and talk a little bit about Over the Edge and what it is we do. So what we do here at Over the Edge is we provide a peer-to-peer fundraising event that is unique, it's different, it's outside the box. And that's what so many groups are looking for right now. They're tired of doing the same old, same old. Now, of course, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, you've been doing doing a wonderful job with your signature event for many, many, many years. But what we've noticed is that several chapters, they're looking for something different. They want to branch out. They're looking to diversify their fundraising efforts, and they've been able to do very, very well with our event, even in 2020 during all the COVID. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second, how we're able to do it. But to date, we've hosted close to 1,100 events. We've had over 90,000 participants join in those events where they are raising money through peer-to-peer networks. You're familiar with those, where they're getting their friends and their family to help them reach the fundraising goal. But then they participate and they go over the edge and they rappel down the side of a building. So it's different, it's outside the box. But the nice thing is that you don't need very many people in order to be successful. And we'll touch on that in a second. To date, we've raised over $100 million and counting. So on average, our event, it says plus 100,000, but I think last year was right around $135,000 was the average amount raised. But that was only with 68 participants. So this isn't a mass recruitment effort. This is a very strategic recruitment effort where you're going after a relatively small number of individuals, but they're bringing in a significant amount of revenue. And in the end, it also brings in an awful lot of media attention because this event is a 2-day event where day one is media VIP day. And that's where our clients are averaging about $230,000 in media valuation. So it's pretty significant to be able to generate media attention, to get you known, to get your organization seen, while at the same time, raising a significant amount of money. So want to just cover real quick the process that we go through in order to make this thing happen. So one of the first things that you're going to do if you have interest in being a part of this is you're going to apply. Now, apply just means that you've spoken to us, you have a really good understanding of what it takes to be successful, and you say, you know what, we want to actively consider the event in our market. We do only allow a certain number of events in your area, so you definitely want to connect with us to make sure there is availability there, or maybe in another area that you cover as well. But so that the first thing is really just having a discussion with us, and then we'll give you a link to where you can apply. It's very, very simple, easy process. It's just filling out a couple fields, and then you are actively considering the event in that area. Now, once you've decided to move forward, we're going to work with you to secure a building. So together we're going to go into this. We're going to do an awful lot on our end to make sure that we have that we're able to make it work, and then we'll then we'll go down the process of really planning out your event, where we're working with you, we're providing you with the information, we're giving best practices, so forth and so on. And of course, we're going to be providing insurance that covers both you and the building owner throughout the, during the event. We do add you to our $10 million policy, and that covers everything that has to do with the rappel itself. And then, of course, as we mentioned before, there's an awful lot of event planning that's going along. We have a whole suite of materials that are available to you and your entire team that you're going to be able to take advantage of, which keeps you from having to recreate the wheel. We have all these materials available that you'll be able to implement, and everything from a marketing plan to, an entire event timeline to social media process, everything. It's all there. Then, of course, you're going to execute your event. As we mentioned, apparently my audio isn't working right now. Is that the case? Can someone jump on and tell me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, got it. I just got a message that said my audio wasn't working. Okay, perfect. So then we have the event execution, and then it's really all about prepping for the next year. So the event, typically this event, it's not a one and done. This is a multi-year thing. It grows. We see the numbers go up. So anyhow, so that's really kind of our next step. Is once you've hosted your event, we're working on you're working on your participants for the next year. So at this point, typically I'd be going ahead and bringing in Janine, but it looks like she doesn't have audio. Oh, Janine, you can hear me now, but you don't have a microphone. You can't.
I do.
Oh, you do. Oh my goodness, it's working. Yay. Oh my gosh, I was sweating it, that whole lead up to the thing. I was sweating because I knew that you were having some issues, but thankfully we've got you. Sydney, thanks so much for helping in the background there as we were going through. Appreciate it.
Definitely.
But real quick, Janine, I wanted to just touch base on real quick how we were able to host a lot of events last year, and you'll be able to weigh in a little bit on this, I think. I know I'm catching you off guard with this question, but COVID has affected an awful lot of organizations to where they've not been able to host their much larger events where you need hundreds of people, like your dinner galas or even a run walk where you might even need 1,000. We were able to host a lot of our events last year simply because we are such a small footprint. I mentioned the average of about 68 participants that we saw. That's not all at one time. Those folks are coming in over an 8-hour period. So you have small little chunks of people that are coming to the event, and it fits into most social distancing guidelines. And that's how we were able to host throughout much of 2020. Now, Janine, I know you guys weren't able to pull it off because of a lot of the restrictions that you had in your community. But when you think back to the size of the groups that you had at your previous 2 events, can you see how that would work within most social distancing and group size limitation guidelines?
We could. We certainly are planning for that for 2021.
Right.
Because of the way the whole event is set up, you're taking just smaller groups of people up to the roof at each time. Smaller groups are going down. We would just have to limit the size and the distance between the landing zone and the, people, the rappellers.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. So I am now going to turn it over to Janine and let her share really their journey with the event. And Janine, thanks again for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, the real rock star, the real showstopper here. So I'll turn it over to you, and I'll probably ask you a couple questions as we go along here. And guys, don't forget, if you have any questions, definitely pop them into that little question box, and we'll get to them throughout. So if you have something, don't wait to the end where you might forget. Go ahead and pop it in the question box, and we'll make sure we get those answered for you. All right, Janine, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. And I'm just going to preface this by saying, since we're all working at home, happen to have some construction going on out in front of my house. So I apologize for any background noise.
We can hear you just fine.
Good. So basically why we chose Over the Edge was we were looking for something unique and different. I know that many of our affiliates and agencies do a large Bowl for Kids' Sake in the summertime. We, in the past, many years ago, had quite a large Bowl for Kids' Sake, a community event. Then over time, it changed into more corporate events. And so we did not produce as much money from Bowl for Kids' Sake, and the excitement level around it was diminishing. So we were looking for something a little unique, exciting, to encourage and to get enthusiasm going again. And we found Over the Edge, and it just was a great fit for us. And so we have done it for 2 years. We didn't do it for 2020. So when I say last year, I'm actually meaning 2019, because that's where my head's going. And that's kind of where we were at with this. What else? Let's see, hosting it. We did have to push back for 20, unfortunately. Oregon had some very strong restrictions. I know Over the Edge was able to do events in other states and in Canada. We found it's an exciting event. I mean, it really, really is. We have a lot of fun with it, and I would encourage you to look at it if you're looking for something new and unique.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Janine, the thing that I really loved when I was looking into your event and your history was the fact that, you know, year one, you did about 123,000, and year two, it looks like you raised about 165,000, so it went up. That's always a big question that some of our groups have is, you know, well, you know, you're going to do it the first year, but then it's going to go down. Nah, it goes up. That's what we see in the vast majority of our clients. The numbers go up. But yeah, a total of 288,000 over 2 years, and only a total of 128 participants over those 2 years. So being able to pull in close to 300K with just 128 people, that's amazing. So kudos to you all for what you were able to do. And yeah, absolutely. And of course, I had to put a shameless plug in there for you guys and your event coming up in 2021, and you're planning for it. So definitely watch out for these guys. They're gonna do really well. All right, go ahead. I'm
and
sorry.
Just real quick, no, that's okay. I was just going to go back to the building on each year. I think this is a kind of event that is definitely word of mouth. You want to get as much promotion as you can, but it's only going to build year after year because more people are going to hear about it. I don't feel this is a one and done event at all. I think it's only going to build, and you learn from each year. You know, you have to, the first year, figure out, you know, we'll talk about where do you find repellers and all of that. And, you know, once you have a plan, but you've got, it's a try it out and see what works for you kind of event. And so I can't see how it would not build year after year.
Excellent.
All right. So we have a committee chaired by a board member. We have several board members on the committee. One of the things I will say, if you're looking at this event, is to have a strong board buy-in. It is really required. You need to have their backing. It is not an inexpensive event to do because Over the Edge provides everything you need for doing the actual event and logistics. And it is quite an undertaking for them. And so therefore, they're worth every penny that you're paying them, but it is not a small amount of you know, output. So you need to make sure that you're going to be able to get a return on your investment. So having board buy-in is huge. And getting a dedicated staff member for this event would be ideal with help. Obviously, I do events and fundraising, so I do logistics and a lot of the other sponsorships and all of that for our events. So I do more than one event. But when this event is going, this is my primary focus, and it needs to be. It just, if you want colors. So we use about 15 to 20 volunteers for day of event. That is also really important, depending again on COVID regulations, depending on how many people we can have in certain areas at certain times. Again, we're going to plan for some restrictions and just hope that there are no restrictions and that we can do the event like we have in the past. sponsorship is really key to getting in the large amounts of money. And it is key. It's much easier to get a $20,000 sponsor than it is to get 20 people to rappel for $1,000 or $1,500, which is what we use. We like doing it with a presenting sponsor. That sponsor is going to be on all of our advertising and digital, print, everything. We did a landing zone sponsor, which is what is showing here a bit of. This is actually our step and repeat photo area from the first year. The person that is Blaze, our Portland Trailblazers mascot, and he went down. So you can have, it's very fun on VIP Media Day, which is usually the day before, to have, you know, mascots and VIP people going down. We use that time for our matches also. So there are opportunities. You know, you need to be creative, and there are very easy ways to be creative with finding sponsorships for this event.
And Janine, I just going to throw a little something in. I was reviewing your your sponsor packet, and I noticed that your top sponsor, the packages, had a big old sold mark on them. So it looked like you were pretty successful in getting that buy-in from the corporate world. What do you think was really the overarching thing that your sponsors came away with, or what did they how did they respond, or how difficult was it to get those major sponsors?
I will say that the major sponsors for the 2 previous years were board member companies. Mm-hmm. And we are certainly stepping out of that this year. We need to expand. You know, we can only use our board so much. Sure. And, you know, so again, I think that the exciting thing is this is a unique event. There isn't, while was another one in Portland, and we're not the first ones to do it, it is still an extremely unique event. And it can be promoted through, you know, corporations, and it looks great on, you know, for them philanthropically.
Gotcha. So I wanted to include this, Janine, and this is one of the things that, and maybe you can just kind of run through a couple of these, pick a couple of your favorites. But I thought these were really unique when I was looking through your sponsorship package, in the way that you were really making your pitch. And I just thought maybe you could share a couple of these.
I think for most of us at BBBS, these are our standard go-tos, which is, you know, get kids off the waiting list. And this is a great way of, again, presenting who we are in a very unique way. It gets in a lot of different people. People who attend our Black Tie Gala are necessarily going to be, you know, drawn to this event, but yet we're really into trying to get the 35 and under crowd into BBBS for volunteers, for recruiting, for board members, for all of that. And I think that's a emphasis that has been a national emphasis for all of us. And this is a very unique and wonderful event to bring in that age group. So, you know, everything that's here is basically what I think all of us at BBBS prescribe to, you know, which is that every child needs a mentor, a one-to-one mentor, and a caring an adult in their life. And this is a good employee team building exercise. A lot of corporations will buy 2 to 3 spots for rappellers, and then they'll either raffle off the positions in their company for various different ways. So there's just so many unique ways you can spin this as far as a fundraising. We do use it as peer-to-peer mainly, but yet with corporation and partners, there are also so many different ways you can spin it.
Absolutely. And I tell you what I really loved about this, Janine, was the fact that you were able to connect the event back to your mission and getting their buy-in. And you know, the one that I really liked was, you know, number 4. because Big Brothers Big Sisters has a waiting list of 300 kids ready to embark on new adventures with future bigs. And it just kind of ties into the adventure of going over the edge and just kind of bringing it back, but bringing it back to what it is you're all about. And so it's not just sponsoring an event, it's really participating in something which is going to make an impact in the community. And I just love that. I've seen a lot of these, and this was pretty unique, and I really enjoyed that. So thanks for sharing that.
And yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we do also with the sponsorships is we offer, if they want to spend some extra, or depending on where their money's going to, is that they're actually sponsoring a big and a little, a match to actually go over the edge, which we do on our VIP day. So there are those opportunities also. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
absolutely.
Well, we can get to it.
No. I thought I had it, but it looks like in this version it's not there anymore. I noticed under each package it equated the amount raised to the number of matches that they were going to help create, and I thought that was really really interesting.
And I don't know if it's on a future slide. We use $1,500 as our cost for people to go over the edge, which is a general amount used for the cost of creating a match and supporting that, professionally supporting that match for a year. So there we go. Yes.
There you go. That's right on the next slide.
That's how we use it. Yeah, basically we've had an anonymous donor who has given us $10,000 each year that supports the big and the little going over. We try to get 5 to 6 bigs and littles going over the edge on VIP day. It's also media day, and it's a great opportunity for media to come out. And especially we do media day on a Friday. We do it between like 1 and 4, sometimes earlier, depending. And if it's a slow day in the media, which we always hope it is, they will come out because they need something for their 4 o'clock edition or their 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock edition. And so a lot of times the TV stations will come out and just do some general shooting. We've also had it scheduled where we do interviews at the same time. So it's an opportunity to promote us, as an agency and what we do.
Absolutely.
The communication plan, that is key, and that I can go back to that in an aha moment if that's coming up again.
Yeah, I do have that mentioned in the aha moments, but I think you did some stuff already, and I think it's important for let's get to it later, as to what you're thinking about doing, but maybe share what it is you did up to this point. I know that you're looking at making a bit more robust for the future, but what did you do in your last 2 events as far as communication with participants?
Most of actually, once they've registered, we use Classy. You can use any other peer-to-peer fundraising platform that you have, Donor Drive. There's so many out there. We set up our Classy so that there is automatic communication with people who have registered. And whether it's you're reaching your goal, you're halfway there, here's email, I said email to send out to your friends, here's some social media posts you can use. All of that has been the standard participant communication. I'm looking to build the plan for recruiting communication and the aha moment afterwards, which is the follow-up communication.
There you go. Yeah, we'll get to that point here in a second. All right. Yeah. So this kind of get into the nitty gritty of how you interact, what you did with your participants and how did you make it so successful. And I wanted to point out here real quick, this picture off to the side. This was, I believe this was one of your bigs and littles that went over the edge together, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing to be able to do. Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's the exciting part about this event. I can tell you, I was in the landing zone for most of the time. And the look and the joy and the just sometimes total relief of the people that have made it to the bottom. But
sure.
It's, the smiles are just genuine and they're huge and you just can't replicate that. So that is another reason this is an amazing event. So incentives, we did not have any kind of incentive like, raise $500 to get a water bottle. Considering maybe doing that, everybody gets a Repel for a Reason t-shirt when they register, or actually when they come in and have paid their $1,500. The incentive was a raffle. If you raised for every $100 over $1,500 you raised, you got a ticket into a raffle. And one of our sponsors and board members works for Yakima Products, which is the car top carriers and bike racks, but they also have a car top tent. And we were able to raffle off a car top tent. So that was exciting. And I think it was a very good incentive.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, demographics, really, you would think it's all men. It's not. It's half, if not more, women. We have had everybody, obviously, from our littles, but we won't count those, from early 20s into late 60s who have rappelled. So it is not a inclusive, I mean, it's inclusive. It's not just certain age groups. Of course, we would like to encourage more, like I said, of the under 35 age. And I think it leans to that. Yeah, I think it's an easy event to be well organized. You know, logistically, it's just timing. And I think that there is no reason that it should be difficult in that regard. And everybody has fun, you know, it's exciting. When you've scaled down a 24-story building and you've made it to the bottom, you feel like you can do anything. You know, it's extremely empowering, and especially for our littles.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things, Janine, you mentioned to me, which I found really interesting, is that because it's quite a bit atypical from what we typically see. Normally, our participants are getting a lot of smaller donations. Okay, and it's because when they post this thing to their social media, a lot of people pay attention to it, because you got to remember, everybody else is seeing, you know, all of the walks and the runs and the pretty standard deal, but they see a lot of those. So when you go out there and you say, hey, I'm going to go over the edge because I really support this organization. And so we typically see a lot of smaller donations that come in, a lot of $25 and $50 donations. But you saw something a little bit different, and I want to know if you could share, you know, what you experienced as far as the larger donations that you received. But I think a lot of that had to do with the board sponsorship, right?
Absolutely. One of the, in order to get board buy-in, we requested that each board member either sponsor or recruit someone to rappel. And so that was 20 so people from our board members. And then a lot of them sponsored actually 2 or 3 people. And again, like I said, they would sponsor, you know, corporations would sponsor 3 to 5 employees, and then they'd figure out how which employees were going, you know, to go over the edge. But as far as peer-to-peer, which is something that we certainly want to build on, because I feel that then that also brings in a larger audience that is new to BBBS. And as I told Kevin, one of the things, we have a 24-story building. Basically, that's $60 a floor. Most people tend to give $50 to your walk or whatever. In this way, you know, you just say, hey, just give 10 more and I'm going to name a floor after you. And, you know, so for each floor, you know, it's like, okay, you know, Kevin, you're floor number 23, you know, and then you can just, and I actually am coming up with a PDF that I'm of the building that I'm going to be able to give to our participants this year. You know, it's just, there's easy ways to spin it. Excuse me. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And I wonder if you can kind of share, I know that you've seen quite a few participants go over. A lot of people think that the person going over the edge, there's going to be a climber or someone who's rappelled before. Maybe speak a little bit to who you see going over. I mean, do you see that most of the people going over have been big climbers already in advance, or were a lot of these folks first timers?
Oh, most of them are first timers. And, you know, we're in Portland and Oregon, and there are a lot of climbers. We have a lot of outdoors people. So, you know, maybe some of the people have had some experience, but not to the extent that they're professional climbers, maybe 1 or 2, but it's so rare. These are, we find a much more empowering activity. So it's the, okay, I'm going to cross this off my bucket list. I'm going to overcome my fear of heights. I am going to, you know, there's so many different reasons for people to do this. I, for one, am going to do it this year. I didn't do it the first year that I was a part of it. And I will tell you the reason is that it is scary looking over the edge. But watching the Over the Edge crew and how they get you all harnessed up and they're there, it is so safe. And I know that I will be safe. And that's the important part of it. So it will be overcoming a large fear for me.
Absolutely, absolutely, and in many ways that connects back into the young people that you serve who are trying to overcome a lot of things at the same time. So absolutely, absolutely. I'm noticing that we do have a question. I also just noticing that Melissa was saying audio is not working. Hopefully, hopefully she was able to get that taken care of. But Rebecca Romero looks like in Big Brothers Big Sisters of El Paso. Welcome, Rebecca. She has a question. Is there a quick flyer or info page that lays out the basics, logistics, costs, timelines, staff, volunteer duties, etc.? I'd love to share this with our board, Rebecca. Yeah, so Rebecca, I believe Brian Kitahara is on the line. He'll make outreach to you and have a discussion with you and let you know how all that works and provide you with those materials and get you taken care of and provide you with what you need to be able to present to the board. And I know I speak for him. He'd be more than happy to do a Q&A with your board. I do those all the time, and I know Brian is willing to as well. So definitely look forward to that coming from him. He'll connect with you and get you all of that information and get you taken care of. He'll even give you a little password and username to get into the members area of our website where all of our materials are. And speaking of that, Janine, I know you had mentioned a little bit in our conversation, you know, yeah, can you tell me a little bit about you know, those materials that we do provide in that members area?
Absolutely. It is quite extensive, and it is, which is what makes, you're not doing this from scratch. You're doing this by a plan that Over the Edge has, it puts together for you through their experience and through years. And so you'll get ideas on fundraising and retention. You'll get logistics. You'll get promotion ideas, what is required of you, what they're going to require when they get there, what's required of the building. There are all of the things you need to talk with a building and, you know, make sure that it matches what is required, and to put the building at ease so that they, you know, can understand what is going to be required of them. It's you know, there's presentation ideas for going out and recruiting, presentation ideas for your board, you know, so it's kind of a you know, toolkit and resource that is excellent, but then you also get matched with an Over the Edge. What is the title, Kevin?
Well, you were they were a client experience manager. They're now going to be oh gosh. Yeah, client experience manager is what you've been exposed to at this point.
Right. And so you're assigned one of those people, which is great. You can set up meetings with them and, you know, check in. You will always have check-in times with them, but also their webinars that they do on a weekly or bi-weekly basis based on each one of the item areas. So it could be one day it's recruiting, one day it's fundraising. So these are also resources that are available to you.
Yeah, just so you know, your person's not going to be called an account manager now. I didn't want to just surprise you with that, but yeah, they're just some restructuring. But yeah, account managers is what you'll be working with directly. Layla, I noticed that you have a question, but I've got a natural point coming up here real soon that we'll be able to address that question. So look out for that. We'll get that to you in just 1 second. All right, moving forward, media.
So like I said, what this consists of is a half a day before the main event, which is Media VIP Day. We have invited, let me put it this way, we have invited many VIPs in the local area, from the mayor to sports figures to radio hosts and TV. We have not actually gotten very many people that feel that this is something they want to do. They support us in other ways, but to actually go over the edge has not really happened except for the mascots. So we also use this opportunity to allow bigs and littles to go over together. And it is such a unique and amazing experience. This last time we had a big and a little who had been matched 2 weeks before. And this was
wow.
like, they had gone on one outing together, and this was like their second outing. And so it was amazing. And, you know, it's an excellent way to build more of a bond. And I will say that it is a little nerve-wracking when you're up on the top of the roof, but the Over the Edge staff is so patient and caring, and they know exactly what to say to help you, you know, get over that fear and then rappel. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Is this another Big Little match that went over the edge on the picture? It is.
It
Okay.
is.
I wasn't sure.
It is.
That's awesome.
I believe he is Batman is the big. So
Sure.
yes.
You know, a darn shame that the little couldn't be Robin, because that would have been amazing.
You know.
You know, Batman and Robin, that would have been fun. I'm sorry.
We have a board
so,
member that goes down. I will say we have a board member that goes down every year in a costume. She was a gorilla this last time. We have another person who went down as Wonder Woman. So, you know, there are lots of opportunities here.
Absolutely. And then as far as that next point goes, I mean, I know you mentioned this, and I think I want to make sure that everybody hears it, that you mentioned that this is the only event that you do where you get like significant media attention, right?
It is. We don't have media attention. We don't request it for our gala or for Bowl for Kids' Sake or anything else. So right now, actually yesterday, I had a meeting with a iHeartRadio here in Portland. I know there are iHeartRadios everywhere. We met with our local people regarding a promotion and some PSAs. Right now, they're going to run PSAs just for recruiting, but then in turn, they'll do for Rappel for a reason. So getting a media sponsor is huge. If you, especially radio, if you can get an in with someone, I strongly recommend it.
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, one of the statistics that we hear from our clients all the time is that roughly between 55 to 58% of participants and money donors are first-time supporters. That's what we typically see from our clients. And so, and most of that is because of media and specifically radio, because if you can get a radio DJ to commit to going over the edge or being a supporter, they'll talk about it for weeks in advance. So absolutely. All right, so let's get into the logistics here, Janine. You know, sort of that building process, and then want to get into Layla Duncan's question. She asks, how many months did you spend in planning prior to the event? And you might make a differentiation between year one and year two, because obviously once you've got one underneath your belt, it's a little bit different dynamic. So maybe get into that while you're talking about logistics here.
I think as far as actual logistics and planning, it's one of those, like a typical event. You want to plan as far in advance as possible. You want to have the building lined up and the MOUs and all of the contracts signed for that. And then making sure, for us, we have to close off sidewalks. So we need city approval. You know, we close off parking spaces. We don't actually close a street down. Sometimes you have to. So things like that, you want to make sure that you've got those in the pipeline early, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes our city can take a while to get us our permits. So those kind of things, as far as logistics, are important to have on your timeline, but they're your basic event logistic issues. There's nothing that is exceptional about this event or that is so different. You know, I think, again, the building, just like you'd have to have your venue, you know, and planning for all of that. The day of is, again, you know, so probably 2 weeks before the event regarding logistics is just like any typical event. You know, you want to make sure all your vendors are taken care of and are showing up and all of that. As far as timelines for recruiting, are we going to do that in a different place, Kevin?
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I think that's, you can go ahead and do that now.
Okay, so in case that's what the question is. So I think, you know, obviously recruiting repellers as early as possible, it'll be an aha moment too, but one of the things that is really important that we have not consistently done is to keep in contact with repellers after the event. And the follow-up is key. If we could get, because what I hear is people come down and they're like, oh my gosh, I have 3 friends that want to do this once I told them I was doing this. And it would be great to send out an email afterwards saying, you told me you had few friends, what are their names? And, you know, get some information. Can you give me their emails so that then you can put them on a mailing list for a save the date and all of that. But it's fresh in their mind of who that is. Maybe even this year, I will have somebody say, well, tell me their names, and be able to just write it down right then. And, you know, we can then remind that person, by the way, you said these 3 people would be interested.
So Layla does a follow-up on the question. Hold on, I'm just kind of getting to it here. She says, more specifically, how long did you give yourselves to recruit in year 1?
I think that this was a pretty quick turnaround. I was not present for year 1, but I was, I think that they gave themselves about 6 months to get recruiting done, which is, we're at about a 9-month stage right now. But I have a gala in next month, so I'm not going to be full court press on this until March 1st. So again, so that will be, you know, 6 months, 7 months that we'll be recruiting.
Absolutely.
Save the date is already, yeah, save the date already went out in November once we had confirmed the date and signed the contract. But again, we will be reminding them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to address another question that I see coming in from Keely Waters, and I'll take this one, Janine, and maybe get a little bit of insight from you as well. Keely asks, would you say that raising $1,500 per person is needed to be successful in this event, or could that number be lower? Here's what I'll throw out there. I know that the $1,500, Janine, that you all mentioned is because that's roughly about what it costs to make a match, and you really wanted to connect that $1,500 back to, you know, the work that you do. And I know that that was really the big push there. But as far as the amount raised being too much, there's always a pushback from some groups who haven't worked with the event yet because they've never asked people to raise that amount before. They've never asked for a larger amount of fundraising. And there's a fear, is that going to keep participants away? And what we see is that that's not the case. And that's because of you are not needing a massive number of people. Now, if you needed 2,000 people like you would in a walk where they're used to being able to do it, you know, at $100 total raised, yeah, that might be an issue. But this is a very different style of event, and you can be very strategic in your recruitment where you're going after those individuals that you know can do that. They can raise the $1,500. But the other thing too is that when these participants put this information out to their friends and their family, and they say, hey, I'm going to rappel 24 stories because I really believe in what Big Brothers Big Sisters does, they're going to get a lot more attention and they're going to get a lot more donations typically. That's what we typically see. So Janine, I mean, did you guys get much pushback on the $1,500?
I think that, you know, it's a sticker shock at first. They're like, oh,
sure.
When you think about it, like I said, for us, we have a 24-story building. So if you want to do $60 a floor, you know, there are ways of doing that. And again, it's just asking, and people like, again, in fundraising, you know, people like, I don't want to ask 5 people. And like, if you don't ask, you're not giving them the opportunity to say yes. You're already saying that they're going to say no. So again, you know, it's that whole thing. But what the main issue here is that the size of your building. So you can, if your building is shorter, if you only have 15 floors, you can get more repellers down quicker than you can at 24. So we can only get between 4 to 6 rappellers down an hour, depending on when Over the Edge is required to do a 20-minute safety check every 2 hours, hour and a half, something like that. So we work out the schedule. But if you have a 15-floor building, you can probably get 6 to 8 rappellers down, and it depends on how many ropes you have. We have 2 ropes. So that is a lot of what you have to figure out for how much it's gonna, you're going to ask people to raise. Again, sure. There are a lot of upfront costs with this, so you have to make sure that this is going to be worth the return. And I think, asking a minimum of $1,000 is pretty much it, because it's a unique opportunity. Yeah. Who gets to rappel down a building in downtown wherever? Nobody.
Yeah, you're gonna have an awesome cover photo on your Facebook page. With the arms outstretched. What I will tell you, Keely, real quick though, is that the vast majority of our clients, they do go with about $1,000. That's the minimum that we recommend. But there's tons of techniques and best practices to get them to raise beyond the $1,000. And they do it because if you looked at our averages from earlier in the day, earlier in your presentation, I mentioned that the average amount raised is about $135,000, and that's being achieved with just 68 people. So the average event, the participant raises well over $1,000. In fact, I think if you do the math, I think it's around $1,700. That's the average. So anyhow, I hope that answers your question. And I'm going to move along here real quick because I'm just kind of looking at the time and I want to be able to answer some more questions. I know that you had some aha moments that I wanted you to be able to get into, and then we'll get into some other things.
So real quick, again, communication, just making sure you have a set communication plan. I don't think that was something that had been established previously for us. It is certainly something that is already established, and I had established for 2020. The follow-up, just making sure that you're in constant communication with people. Hyping it up, again, there was not a lot of social media presence previously. The past 2 times, we are definitely going to be hyping social media up. If we can get, radio coverage, obviously that's great. And again, yeah, finding the plan, use it. The first year, Over the Edge provides you with a great toolkit, and use it, and use their resources. And then, you're going to adapt it to what works for you. A general toolkit isn't necessarily everything's not going to work for every area. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. What works for us is not going to work for El Paso, Texas, necessarily. So you've got to know your audience. That is the main thing I can say, is know your audience. And get broader sponsorship appeal, obviously. And it's just an exciting event. I think it's easy if you've got the backup from your agency and your board. It's really fun. It really is fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So before we get into additional questions, and I might even open up the microphones here, so be prepared for that. So if you've got somebody screaming in the background, tell you what, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll open up your microphone, just so I'm not opening up everybody's and having some dog barking in the background, when you're unprepared. So so go ahead and raise your hands right now if you have questions. But before we get to those, just a little bit of housekeeping. Know that after this presentation, we're going to go ahead and fire this off to everybody that's attending here, but also every other Big Brothers, Big Sisters that we made outreach to. I think we hit everybody that's out there, just to let them know about this presentation. So we're going to be sending off this slide, the slide deck, but also the video. Additionally, we'll be making some connection to see if you have any interest in hosting in your area. What I will tell you is that while this presentation was amazing, thank you, Janine, you're going to have a lot of very individualized questions regarding your market. And I can tell you our team are dedicated to making sure that we're not just going to sell you an event. We really want to provide you with the information that you're going to need to determine if you can be successful with it, because we all know that there's no fundraiser that magically raises you money. There's none. If you find one, please let me know, because that'd be kind of interesting. So it's really up to you to be successful with it. It's up to the team. We can provide you with a ton of information, but you need to be able to take that on and be able to work it. So that's what we will do. We'll work together with you and be an advocate and determine together if it's something that you're going to be able to be successful with. So we're going to be making outreach to everybody here as well, but definitely feel free to fire off emails, phone calls, what have you. You probably received an email if you're here. So definitely connect with your respective representative and see if you can have that more in-depth conversation. I think you'll find it very, very valuable. I know myself, Brian and Canyon and Sydney and Evan and Amber, we're all here to help in any way that we can. So be looking for that, and look forward to talking with you down the road here. And if you found this really interesting, share this with your peers in other chapters. You know, hey, saw something that was kind of interesting. You might want to check it out. So take the video that we send you, forward off to your peers, let them know about it. So at this point, let's see if we have any other questions. Like I said, if you'd like to ask the question live, don't be afraid. Let me know, and I'll go ahead and open up your microphone, and we'll go from there. So yeah, so if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand in there, and I'll open up your microphone and let you ask live.
Real quick, Kevin, also anybody
Yeah.
who wants to ask me questions as a, Big Brothers Big Sisters affiliate versus Over the Edge, I am open to that. If I put my email in the chat, does that, or is it just for questions?
Well, they won't be able to see it. Maybe just mention it. To tell you what we'll do, we're going to be forwarding off all the information afterwards. We'll include your email. Is that okay if we include it in the email to everybody? Okay, perfect. Well, you heard it here, folks. So if she complains later on because she gets inundated with emails, she asked for it. I'm kidding. Love it.
We're all a big family. It's a community, and we're here to help each other because we're all here for the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I am happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
That's awesome. All right. Any questions at all? I'm not seeing anything pop up here. I guess that means that we explained everything wonderfully here, Janine. Let's just give it just one more second here. And oh, we got a raised hand. It's Layla Duncan. Layla, I'm going to open up your mic. So if you've got screaming kids in the background, I'm just warning you now. Let's see here. Oh, it looks like you are. How do we go ahead and? Oh, why is this not working here? Give me just 1 second here, folks. It looks like the only way I can unmute is if I unmute everybody, and that's not going to work. Layla, I'm going to apologize here. I'm not sure why I can't unmute you here. Well, okay, so now you're only self-muted, Layla. So if you unmute yourself within the system, you should be able to ask your question live. I can't unmute your self-mute, so looks like she just wrote it in. No worries. As we don't have a date, we'd like to discuss moving the date back. Okay, so Layla, that's something that we'll get to you about. So Layla's one of our other Big Brothers Big Sisters clients, and yeah, we can certainly have that discussion. No worries whatsoever. I'll reach out to you after the call. All right. It looks like since we're having a bit of an audio issue here, as far as getting people open, if you have any other questions, type them in. But you know, I think there's been plenty of time for people to write things in here. Janine, I really appreciate your time. This is, I'm sure people found it very, very helpful, and I thank you personally for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know that you've got your, working on your gala and everything, but appreciate you taking the time to share your experience and your offer to be able to mentor, if you will, other Big Brothers Big Sisters as they potentially go down this journey or maybe are just considering it. So definitely thank you, and to everybody that joined. Thanks for your time to come in here and learn a little bit more about something different and outside the box. I know it's kind of scary times for everybody, and I know myself, everybody on this call from Over the Edge, and for Janine, we appreciate what you do and wish you the best of luck. I know things are a little crazy right now, but hopefully we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm knocking on as much wood as I can find around me here, that everything clears up here very, very soon for everybody. So with that, I wish everybody adieu, and look forward to chatting with you further. All right, all. Bye, Janine. Thanks again.